Sincere, I'm sorry. Please just let me go in the final moments of my life. I want to pursue my own love. My wife had been diagnosed with terminal stomach cancer. With only a few days left to live, she clung tightly to her secretary's hand, looking at me pitifully. Are you sure about this? After confirming one last time, I agreed to Mia Sutton's request for a divorce. I coolly exited the hospital room, leaving the star-crossed lovers to pour their hearts out to each other. Clutching Mia's healthy physical exam report, I turned and made a call to the Ainsworth's youngest daughter. Is that marriage proposal still on the table? Sincere, are you sure? You and Mia were together for 5 years. The voice on the other end was thrilled, but she was still cautious, seeking confirmation again and again. Yes, but you might have to put more effort into our wedding. I need to clean things up on my end first. Victoria Ainsworth finally let out a long sigh of relief. Okay, no problem. I'll plan the most lavish wedding Crown City has ever seen. I glanced back at the two people in the hospital room, now crying with joy, and a chill washed over me. Julian Mason's hand was already sliding into Mia's hospital gown. Mia, who had been pale from her illness, immediately flushed with color. Julian, what are you doing? There are people everywhere. What if Sincere sees us? Though her words were a protest, her body didn't resist. Julian cooed at her. What's there to be afraid of? He already agreed to the divorce, didn't he? Sis, isn't this more exciting than the office? Hearing this, a hint of sadness suddenly colored Mia's expression. Sigh. If it weren't for terminal cancer, I would never have left Sincere. We've been through so much together. But the whimpers that escaped her lips quickly tore away her hypocritical mask. It continued until the doctor came to do his rounds and pushed the door open. Mr. Hayes, why are you standing out here? Please come in. I steeled myself and walked in, shattering the charged atmosphere. Julian awkwardly had to pull his hand out from under Mia's clothes. The doctor seemed to have noticed. He adjusted his glasses and said, Right. The patient needs to get plenty of rest and maintain a positive mood. No intense emotional fluctuations. To Mia, his words sounded like a final farewell. She and Julian gripped each other's hands even tighter. The doctor didn't say much else, just gave me a look of unspoken sympathy before leaving. Julian sat by the bed, head bowed, alternating between casting pitiful glances at Mia and flashing me a look of triumph. What a spectacular performance. Mia finally spoke, her voice hesitant. Sincere, as compensation, you'll inherit all my assets. I've already had my lawyer draft the agreement. It just needs your signature. Her face was pale, still wearing that same damsel in distress look she had when I first met her. I never imagined she had been planning to cut me out for so long, intending to spend her final days with her male secretary. I signed my name with a flourish. Julian breathed a sigh of relief. He'd been coveting the title of Director Sutton's husband for a very long time. If Mia hadn't gotten sick, I'd have never known those two had been carrying on an affair behind my back for so long. Mia immediately announced the news in the family group chat. In an instant, her whole extended family chimed in, Wow, Sincere is so lucky. Mia is leaving him so much even after the divorce. Mia, honey, don't wrong yourself in your final days. Go after what you love. Wronged? Mia was the one who pursued me. After we got together, I became her support system to help her realize her entrepreneurial dream. I stayed up all night with her, drove her to meet clients, and took drinks for her at dinners. I had single-handedly built half of Mia's company. And now, our marriage had become something that had wronged her. Julian finally spoke up, his voice meek. Thank you, Mr. Hayes, for making this possible. If it weren't for Director Sutton. I waved a hand in disgust, unable to stand it, and walked out. Just then I received a text from the doctor. Mr. Hayes, could you come to my office? At first, I wondered why you didn't tell her the truth, but now I think I understand, the doctor said with a helpless smile as I walked in. You've been slaving away taking care of her in this hospital for half a year, only to have this guy swoop in and steal your place. He continued, Don't worry, we'll run a second set of tests to be sure, but it's highly likely there's nothing seriously wrong. The hospital had mixed up the records. Another patient with the same name was the one with stomach cancer. My wife was just hospitalized for exhaustion. We have an emergency bed 18. Bed 18 is calling for help. Bed 18, wasn't that Mia? My heart skipped a beat. Despite everything, 5 years of history meant my first instinct was still worry. I rushed to her bed with the nurse and saw Mia gasping for air. But in the same glance, I also saw a disheveled Julian. I understood everything instantly. A nurse nearby was muttering, "We told the patient in bed 18 to rest. She's so reckless and shameless, even in a hospital. Does she have a death wish?" Tears welled in Julian's eyes as he furiously typed on his phone. I remembered then that he was a minor social media influencer. I pulled out my phone and saw a new post from him. "I can finally be with my babe. I'm going to be by her side through the final chapter of her life." In a flash, his mindless stans flooded the comments, weeping over this supposedly epic romance. After being stabilized, Mia refused to stay in the hospital. She insisted on going to the company, dragging both me and Julian along. Sincere. "I originally said I'd give you all my company shares, but I was thinking, could I leave a little for Julian? Not much, just 5. After all, he's been with me for 2 years, with no title or recognition." It was the first time Mia had openly admitted her relationship with Julian, but I just nodded faintly. "Sure, 5 is too little. Make it 10. It's the least he deserves for keeping you company for so long." I put heavy emphasis on the word company, and sure enough, Mia's face went pale, then red. Seeing how agreeable I was, Julian's eyes darted around as he muttered, "If I'd known he'd agree so easily, I would have asked for more." Mia slapped his hand disapprovingly and said with a hint of complaint, "If I weren't dying, I'd never divorce Sincere. You should know when to quit while you're ahead." I leaned back in my chair watching their performance and asked nonchalantly, "Do you need more? A seat on the board, perhaps? Beneficiary of her life insurance?" Julian's eyes lit up, but Mia for a moment remained clear-headed. "Sincere, don't. That would be too much of a sacrifice for you. Julian isn't capable of being on the board, but the insurance beneficiary." Mia paused, then suddenly seemed to remember something. "Sincere, why are you being so generous?" I took a drag from a cigarette and asked with a smirk, "You're dying anyway. I might as well make you comfortable so you have no regrets when you're gone." My words left her speechless. I was done with the charade, so I drove home to pack my things. The moment I walked out, I got a call from Victoria Ainsworth. "Sincere, want to pick out a wedding ring? I know you like these styles. Ring size 9. I was taken aback. Victoria laughed on the other end of the line. "Please, we've known each other for so many years. I'm a professional. I only need to see your hand a few times to know your ring size." A memory flashed in my mind. I hadn't received a single gift from Mia since she'd gotten involved with Julian. The last time we went to pick out anniversary rings, she had been completely distracted, only teasing, "Honey, you've put on weight. I don't remember your fingers being this big." In truth, my ring size has been a 9 ever since I met Mia. I looked at the wedding ring from Mia on my hand and tossed it into the trash. Knowing that tomorrow I'd be getting my divorce certificate, my mood lifted. I even found myself cooking a feast at home, feasting happily. During this time, Julian brazenly moved into my house. Mia completely let herself go, ignoring all company matters, focused only on being lovey-dovey with him. But Julian didn't forget the company. Riding her coattails, he used Mia's authority to run the place into the ground. Even the finance manager, who was usually at odds with me, couldn't stand it anymore and came to my office. "Director Hayes, you're still the second in command here. Aren't you going to do something about this mess?" I looked out at a fuming Julian and could only shrug helplessly. Sure enough, when I got home and Mia saw the table laden with a seafood feast, she blew up. "Sincere, Hayes, I'm in the last days of my life, and you not only ignore me and the company, but you also embarrass Julian at the office and come home to stuff your face. Are we even still married?" I paused, a piece of king crab halfway to my mouth, and gestured with my chin towards Julian. who was struggling to come up with his own accusations. Well, you've got him to keep you company, don't you? Besides, as of tomorrow, we won't be married anymore. Mia's chest heaved with anger. She pointed a trembling finger at me. Fine, then let Julian take full control of the company. Give him my seat on the board, and change the beneficiary on all my insurance policies to his name. I stared at her. 5 years of marriage, and in the end, she was willing to put on this grand charade just to pave the way for her boy toy. I simply washed my hands and agreed to her proposal. This time, it was Mia who looked away, the tips of her ears turning red, a telltale sign of her guilt. Perhaps it's true that people speak kindly when they are near death. Mia was about to say something to smooth things over, but Julian placed a hand on hers. Thank you, sis. Meeting you has been the greatest fortune of my life. Mia was placated. She looked at Julian with a gratified smile, though her eyes kept darting towards me. She dropped the act. Though her voice was laced with guilt, her tone was firm. Starting tonight, I want to sleep in the guest room with Julian. It will be more convenient for him to take care of me. Convenient, she said. But ever since Julian arrived, the two of them had been sneaking off to the guest room in the middle of the night anyway. Now that the doctor's diagnosis meant she didn't have long, she figured she might as well lay all her cards on the table. I nodded numbly. That night, the sounds from the guest room were incessant. Julian's seductive voice goaded Mia on. Sis, am I better or is Sincere better? You finally made the right choice. At that moment, a trace of melancholy entered Mia's voice. Don't compare yourself to Sincere. We were a power couple who built everything from nothing. If I wasn't knocking on death's door, I would never have chosen to divorce him. Julian's response was to torment her with renewed ferocity. The sounds of splashing water were so disruptive that even with earplugs, I was disturbed until I finally managed to fall asleep in the dead of night. But it was all right. Victoria had arranged everything for the wedding. With the wedding checklist she had prepared as my pillow, I slept soundly, without a single dream. Sis, look at the camera, quick. Mia was up early, her face flushed and radiant. It looked like Julian had taken very good care of her last night. Seeing me come downstairs, Mia feigned unease, wringing her hands. Sincere. Julian wants to record my final days. I hope you don't mind. This pitiful act was her usual trick to get me to give in. I didn't spare her a single glance, but a voice came from her phone. Wow, why is this guy so arrogant? Our Jules is spending the last days with his babe, letting this guy off easy, and he's still not happy. Exactly, I heard she's divorcing that guy today. Our Jules has finally made it. I felt sick to my stomach. I had no idea what kind of education these fans had received to be able to say such things. Julian gave me an apologetic smile, but his eyes were filled with unconcealable pride. He began, testing the waters today. Sis and Sincere are getting a divorce. Before he could finish, I cut in immediately. Yes, don't worry, it's a done deal. Do you need me to live stream the signing? A look of hurt immediately crossed Julian's face. He looked at Mia like a big sad dog, and she instantly put down her chopsticks. We're about to get divorced. Stop making a scene. By the way, let's go look at rings before we go. To avoid any more drama, I had to agree to Mia's request. The store had a gimmick. Men and women could only buy one set of wedding rings in their lifetime. The sales clerk kept praising how deeply in love Mia and Julian were, even waving to the fans on the live stream. But when it came time to pay, the clerk couldn't process the transaction. After calling the manager over, she said awkwardly, "Ma'am, it seems you may have already purchased from our store." Mia was still confused. I calmly took out my own ID and placed it on the counter. Here, check if she bought them with me. I remember we bought rings from this very store for our anniversary last year. The clerk, blushing, took my ID. After checking, her eyes darted back and forth between the three of us. After a long moment, she closed her eyes and forced a smile. Oh, so you two are the married couple. I saw this gentleman was live streaming and I just assumed. Mia finally remembered and tried to awkwardly cover up her relationship with Julian. She gave me a placating smile. Hey, Sincere, you haven't worn that ring in so long, I forgot. And look at you, you've gained weight. The ring we bought back then probably doesn't even fit you anymore. That ring was a disgrace. I had just found out the day before that something was going on between her and Julian. The next day, Mia went and bought these supposedly one-of-a-kind rings to celebrate our anniversary. As it turned out, she had remembered Julian's ring size, not mine. That day, to put her at ease, I had forced the ring onto my finger. I held up my left hand and replied coolly, "My ring size has never changed. Let's go, we're wasting time. The registrar's office will close soon." Julian, who had been about to protest, immediately quieted down at my words, grabbing Mia and rushing toward City Hall. The divorce papers were finally in my hand. I felt a huge weight lift from my shoulders. I was expressionless, feeling a bit dazed. Mia called my name a few times, but I didn't react. She thought I was sad about the divorce. Tears welled in her eyes and she fell into my arms. "Sincere, I know you took care of me in the hospital for half a year. And I know everything you've done for me. It was me who was too selfish. Let's be husband and wife again in our next life." Her tear and snot-stained face made even the divorce registrar ask if we were being forced to do this. I quickly shook my head, pushed Mia away, and headed for the door. Julian was waiting outside City Hall with his live-streaming camera. When he saw Mia emerge, he couldn't contain his joy. "Hey everyone, I can finally be with my babe." They were practically crying with happiness when Mia's phone suddenly rang. It was the hospital. "Miss Sutton, our apologies, but it seems there was an error in your previous diagnosis. You're simply suffering from overexertion. You just need to rest." Mia froze on the spot. A few seconds later she roared, "Does your hospital have any medical ethics? I've already broken up with my husband. What am I supposed to do now?" She shoved away Julian, who had been clinging to her, and turned her head, almost inch by inch, to face me. "Honey, I'm okay now. Can we get remarried?" I held up my divorce certificate. "What do you think?" Mia burst into tears right there in front of City Hall and grabbed my arm. "Sincere, we were together for 5 years. How could you? I know you still love me, right?" I shook her hand off. Julian timidly reached for her, but Mia snarled at him. "Get lost, it was all you, stirring up trouble. If it weren't for you, how could there have been this misunderstanding between Sincere and me?" Hearing Mia slander their idol, the fans on the live stream immediately started spewing filth at her. Some even started listing every detail of Mia's 2-year affair with Julian in the chat. Mia panicked. She pulled Julian over and whispered something in his ear. Sure enough, Julian, who had been resentful just a moment ago, instantly became docile. He just shot me a hateful look before leaving. I suppressed my disgust. The memory of her and Julian fooling around in our house made my blood boil. "Ms. Sutton, even if we hadn't divorced, don't forget all the disgusting things you and Julian left behind at home. The surveillance cameras have it all. No matter how you spin it, you were the one at fault." Mia just put on that same manipulative face she always used on me and started reminiscing. "Do you remember when we first got together, how you'd stay up all night with me and make me midnight snacks? Do you remember taking drinks for me? Have you forgotten all those little moments?" I held out my hand and said coldly, "Mia, of course I remember. But what about you? You couldn't even remember my ring size." The final boarding call for my flight blared over the airport speakers. I could only sigh and say to her in a low voice, "We're divorced. You need to look forward, Mia. Right now, I think your main focus should be on your company." She looked at me in shock, then suddenly realized how much the company's performance had suffered from Julian's antics. Mia took a deep breath, got in her car, and drove away. But before she left, she threw one last line over her shoulder, "Sincere, 5 years of history. I could never let you go, no matter what." I immediately boarded a flight to Seaside City. When I landed, I was greeted by a sunny day. The gloom that had been hanging over me was swept away. Outside the airport, I saw Victoria Ainsworth standing in front of a Maybach, holding a bouquet of flowers and waving at me. For a moment, I was in a daze. The sight overlapped with the image of a younger Victoria waving for me to walk to school with her. I had basically grown up with Victoria. We were good buddies who walked to and from school together. but she went abroad for college and we gradually lost touch. She confessed her feelings for me when she returned, but by then I was already with Mia, so it came to nothing. After rejecting her, Victoria moved to Seaside City, even joking, "With you in Crown City, I'm afraid I won't be able to resist seeing you, so I can't stay." I never thought that after all the twists and turns, Victoria would become my wife. I felt a pang of guilt. I had just escaped my last marriage, and here was Victoria handling everything. Mustering my courage, I stammered, "Victoria, I'm sorry for putting you through this." To my surprise, she immediately grabbed my hand and pretended to be angry. "Sincere, Hayes, I don't feel wronged at all. Are you being so formal because you're having second thoughts?" Her magnanimity put me at ease. Victoria and I always had plenty to talk about, and before I knew it, we had arrived at the Ainsworths' home. Her parents, Helen and Robert, were already waiting eagerly at the door. The moment she saw me, Helen's eyes filled with tears. "My dear Sonny, oh, you've gotten so thin. I hadn't seen Mr. and Mrs. Ainsworth much since my own parents passed away." Seeing their faces brought back memories of my mom and dad, and my own eyes reddened. As soon as we were inside, Helen pulled me to the dining table, which was covered with all my favorite seafood. For the past 5 years, because Mia was allergic to seafood, I hadn't touched it, except for that one night before the divorce. Victoria peeled a salt and pepper mantis shrimp for me. Back in high school, every time you came over you had to have Mom's salt and pepper mantis shrimp. Try it, see if the taste has changed. Victoria and I knew each other inside and out. The moment the shrimp hit my tongue, I was transported back to high school. Seeing Victoria and me getting along so happily, Helen said with a gratified smile, "Good, good. Seeing you two like this, I believe May would be happy in heaven." May was my mother, and she had been Helen's best friend. My mom had never really approved of my marriage to Mia. She only relented because I was so insistent. As it happened, when my mother passed away, Mia skipped the funeral to celebrate Julian's birthday. Seeing me lost in thought, my eyes visibly red, Victoria quickly changed the subject. "Come on, Sincere, want to play a game?" It was our favorite way to relax back in the day. I had stopped playing video games after getting together with Mia. She always said they were a frivolous waste of time. Sure enough, after one round I felt much more relaxed. Victoria then slid a document over to me. I assumed it was a prenuptial agreement and froze, a sour taste in my mouth. But on second thought, the Ainsworth family was a major power now, so it was understandable. To my surprise, it was a draft of a company charter. Victoria looked at my stunned face and smiled gently. "Sincere, I know you have talent. Here, start a company. But you have to work hard for me. As a shareholder, I'll be expecting profits." When I started the company with Mia, my contribution was my expertise. But later, thinking we were husband and wife, I never bothered to get the details in writing. If it weren't for the divorce, I would never have known how much the shares in Mia's name were worth. To accommodate me, this agreement only stipulated that Victoria would receive her share of the profits as a shareholder and would not participate in company decisions. Every clause was written out in black and white. Seeing how moved I was, Victoria touched her nose bashfully and changed the subject. "Sincere, the shop said the rings are ready. Want to go try them on together?" The mention of rings reminded me of Mia. As I expected, my phone was blowing up with calls from her colleagues and missed calls from Mia herself. In Mia's absence, Julian had seized power at the company and lost several key clients. After hearing I had left, those same clients started contacting me. "Director Hayes, you're divorced? Thinking of starting your own firm? We'll follow you." I ignored Mia's melodramatic texts and looked at the agreement in front of me. I said to Victoria with solemnity, "Yes, Director Ainsworth." The moment the ring slid onto my finger, I knew it belonged there. The sales clerk smiled brightly. "Mr. Hayes and Ms. Ainsworth are truly a match made in heaven." It wasn't just Victoria. I felt a strange new feeling in my own heart as well. Not just the rings. Victoria had arranged everything perfectly. Perhaps because I was so familiar with her in the past, I had forgotten that people who become great friends are, by definition, kindred spirits. She remembered almost all my preferences, even details as small as how many slices of ginger I liked in my Americano. I went with Victoria for her wedding dress fitting. The moment she stepped out of the dressing room, the first thought that flashed through my mind was, why did I ever let her go? I remembered in high school, before she left, Victoria had jokingly asked me, "Sincere, have you ever thought about what your future bride will look like in her wedding dress?" I had teased her about it at the time, but in truth, an image had already formed in my mind, a simple fitted white gown, with elegant gloves and a beautiful pearl necklace. Right here, right now, she looked exactly as I had imagined. I stared at her so intently that she blushed. "Sincere, do you like it?" she asked. I just nodded blankly, but it felt like fireworks were going off somewhere inside my heart. The Ainsworths were a prominent family, and according to Robert and Helen, it would take about a month to prepare for the wedding properly. I used this time, along with the money from the divorce, my old client connections, and Victoria's help, to launch my company. With almost no setbacks, my business was soon on the right track. I blocked Mia, but as my company grew, she managed to find me in Seaside City through business channels. Mia caused a huge scene downstairs. To avoid a negative impact on the company, I had no choice but to bring her up. The moment she entered my office, Mia practically fell to her knees. "Sincere, please, I've broken it off with Julian, and I've cleaned up the company. Can you please come back?" She was even thinner than when she was misdiagnosed with terminal cancer, with dark circles under her eyes that seemed to have a life of their own. Some of my old clients from her company would occasionally share gossip. Julian, using his board seat and shares, had wreaked havoc. Mia had to use a scorched earth strategy, hurting herself almost as much as him, just to get the company back on track. I didn't know what deal she struck with Julian, but seeing his social media suddenly filled with luxury goods, it wasn't hard to imagine how much she had compromised. Seeing her unsteady on her feet, I felt nothing. I just said sarcastically, "We're already divorced. If you cause another scene here, I won't hesitate to call the police." Mia looked at me in disbelief. Suddenly she stood up, dusted herself off, and a sneer flashed in her eyes. "Sincere, what right do you have to judge me? Aren't you just a social climber who latched back onto the Ainsworth family tree?" I didn't want to get entangled with her, but she had found her opening. She rushed out of my office and shouted to the employees outside, "Come and see your great boss. He dumps his wife who built everything with him the second he finds a bigger tree to climb, and he still pretends to be a devoted husband." A few of the old employees from Mia's company tried to intervene, but she just insulted them, calling them ungrateful traitors. "Officer, this is the person causing a disturbance here." Victoria arrived at the office with the police. The moment I saw Victoria, a sense of calm settled over me, but Mia was relentless. She pointed at Victoria and screamed, "Why? Why are you so persistent? It's been 5 years. Sincere and I were married for 5 years and you're still hanging on?" Victoria stepped in front of me, took my hand and looked directly into Mia's eyes. She said word by word, "I do love Sincere. And now, Sincere and I are about to get married." Victoria glanced at me, then turned back to Mia, her voice firm. 5 years ago, or now, my only choice has always been Sincere." Some of the employees nearby started to clap softly. The young woman at the front desk was even more excited.
"Go, Big V, you rock." Mia had lost face completely.
The sight of our engagement rings was like a knife in her heart. When Mia raised her hand to slap Victoria, she was stopped by the police. Mia was taken to the station to give a statement. I presented our divorce certificate and the video of Mia's rampage in my office. She was rewarded with 15 days in detention. During the commotion, she had managed to scratch my face. Victoria bought a hard-boiled egg from a convenience store and gently rolled it over the scratch. I remembered back in high school, when Victoria was the class president, she used a warm egg to soothe another boy's bruise. At the time, I had felt a strange pang of anger and even picked a fight with that boy after class for no reason. Looking back now was probably a love I didn't even recognize. The first month I paid Victoria her shareholder dividends, she teased me, but her eyes were full of starlight. See? I told you my instincts are never wrong. Keep earning that money, Mr. Hayes. In reality, besides her investment, Victoria, who ran her own high-end jewelry company, would also refer her clients to me. But she never boasted about it. It wasn't until a private banquet that I recognized a few familiar faces. During the mingling, I realized they were all Victoria's clients. One of the society ladies even pulled me aside quietly. See that woman over there? Her husband is a potential client for you. Victoria told us not to tell you. She was afraid you'd overthink it. She patted my arm and said seriously, "But Victoria truly cares for you. You'd better treat her well after you're married." When we got home that night, a tipsy Victoria, her cheeks flushed, waved her arms grandly. "Sincere, your company is going to get bigger and better." I tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, leaned in and teased, "Oh? Is my company the only thing on Miss Ainsworth's mind?" My warm breath seemed to sober her up. "Sincere? What are you doing?" "Of course not, it's just—" I silenced the rest of her words with a kiss as a storm raged outside. I pulled her into the deepest waters, a small boat rocking in time with our rhythm. I rested on her shoulder and whispered, "I'm just exercising my rights as a husband. Is that okay?" Victoria responded with a more urgent rhythm. But a quiet life was not in the cards just yet. After Mia returned to Crown City, she used Julian to leak our story. In Mia's version, I became the one who was secretly pining for his high school classmate and had an affair during our marriage. Victoria and I had even sent her to jail when she was only trying to seek justice. She and Julian were painted as having a platonic emotional love affair that only crossed the line after her misdiagnosis. I have no idea what Kool-Aid Julian fed his fans, but they all flooded my social media with hate. A scumbag and a homewrecker, a match made in hell. Poor Mia wasted 5 years of her youth on a cheater. I lost several new projects. Even some of my old clients started making excuses. "Director Hayes, I'm sorry, but our company has a strict policy on public image. Let's talk again after you've handled this." Victoria also came under heavy criticism. At dinner parties, there were always whispers. "Little Victoria, Sincere Hayes is a divorced man. If you haven't tied the knot yet, you should get out now. With your background, you could have anyone." I can't believe the sole heiress of the Ainsworth family likes to fight over other people's men. She could have anyone she wants. Some of the more fastidious socialites stopped ordering jewelry from her. At night, she would sit with her design sketches, constantly revising them, her trash can full of broken pencils. But to me, Victoria always presented an optimistic face. Her father, Robert, seriously asked if I needed his help to suppress the online gossip, but I just shook my head. When it comes to those who hurt the people I love, endless tolerance only emboldens them. Mia and Julian had been together for 2 years, leaving their mark even in the office. When I was at Mia's company, I was always fair to my subordinates, helping any employee in need if I could. The person who used to manage the surveillance footage sent me a video file. For a thrill, Mia and Julian hadn't limited their activities to her camera-free office. They had even used the conference room while a meeting was happening next door. I posted all their videos online. Mia tried to sue the hospital for misdiagnosis, but the hospital countered by laying out their diagnostic confirmation procedures. After the hospital released its statement, an angry nurse leaked the video of Mia and Julian's thrill-seeking in the hospital. As for Julian, the list of his unpopular and damaging actions at Mia's company was endless. I just posted a few documents from projects he had handled that resulted in losses for the company. Instantly, the comments section was flooded with complaints from all sides. No matter how hard his fans tried to control the narrative, new comments kept pouring in. Someone dug up Julian's live stream from our divorce day. I followed up by posting the appointment time for our divorce certificate. Even his most mindless stands went silent. Soon, Julian's account was banned for promoting a negative social influence. Mia's company collapsed from the loss of trust. My projects slowly started coming back. and the gossip about Victoria in our social circle vanished on a sunny afternoon. I held Victoria's hand and we went to the registrar's office. On our wedding day, I stood at the end of the aisle as Victoria, escorted by her father, walked slowly towards me. The image of the girl who used to run boisterously towards me in high school overlapped with the woman in the wedding dress before me today. After the priest's declaration, we exchanged our vows. I sealed our future happiness with a long, deep kiss. After the wedding, both Victoria and I were busy with our own careers. But in the moments in between, we had two lovely daughters. At a banquet one day, I overheard someone gossiping about Mia. Did you hear? Mia Sutton, from that sensational divorce case, was stabbed by her boy toy and is now in a vegetative state.
I know, right?
They said it was for the insurance money. The beneficiary was the boy toy, so ruthless. Julian's career was destroyed because of Mia, and she had no choice but to support his lavish lifestyle. But when Mia's own company collapsed, she could no longer afford Julian's extravagant spending. Over time, he hatched a terrible plan. I couldn't help but feel a sense of irony. Mia had gone to such great lengths to make Julian her beneficiary. And now, she had been hoisted by her own petard.
Daddy, my daughter saw me and ran into my arms.
I looked at Victoria in the distance, her eyes crinkling into a smile, and felt a wave of gratitude that she had never given up on me. I loved hearing her business ideas, and I had the ability to turn those visions into reality. The Crawford and Sterling corporations grew together, quickly becoming the twin stars of the industry.
Mom and Dad have good taste, don't they?
My mother said cheerfully, placing a piece of food on Victoria's plate as she asked me. Victoria was now a frequent guest in our home, and her presence always brought a lot of joy. I looked at her tenderly and said slowly, "Mom, Dad, Victoria and I are planning to get married next month." Unsurprisingly, there were no objections. Our parents met immediately to plan the event. Victoria and I worked together during the day and went to try on wedding dresses and pick out diamond rings after work. This time, I was going to announce it to the world. Victoria and I were together. The night before the wedding, as I was waiting for Victoria downstairs, I ran into someone I hadn't seen in a long time. Scarlett was standing alone under a tree, wearing the same dress she wore when we first met. She saw me and hurried over. I turned to walk away, but she grabbed my arm. "Sincere, I truly never betrayed you. This is the DNA report for the child we lost. Look." I didn't know when Victoria had come to stand beside me, but she looked at me with a hint of concern. I wrapped my arm around Victoria, brushed aside the document blocking our path, and walked away without looking back. What was the point of dwelling on the past? Every choice I had made was the right one for me at the time. The person walking beside me now was Victoria, and I didn't need to consider anyone else. The wedding took place as scheduled. The venue was filled with esteemed guests, many reporters, friends, and entrepreneurs. Most importantly, Victoria was there, and both our families and friends were there. Amidst everyone's blessings, we walked down the aisle. As I was toasting guests, Miss Collins whispered in my ear, "Miss Payne has been standing at the entrance and refuses to leave." I shook my head and told her not to worry about it, but to keep an eye on her. I didn't want to see her inside the hall. The wedding concluded without a hitch. As for when Scarlett finally left, nobody cared. My life with Victoria continued much as it had before. We worked together, and we lived together. Without realizing it, we had blended into one another, becoming an inseparable whole. In our first year of marriage, Victoria became pregnant with our child. I excitedly paused all my work just to be with her. 10 months flew by. We had a pair of fraternal twins, a boy and a girl. One day, the television was showing a promotional event for director Lowell's new drama. The host asked the lead actress if she had any lifelong regrets. The woman was silent for a long moment, then slowly said, "In my most ignorant years, I drove away the love of my life.